Good evening. Welcome to this very, very, very special broadcast. I am so delighted to see all of you out there in the virtual world tonight. We have a very, very special guest and a very special program. This is going to be great tonight. I'm very excited. Happy Black History Month to all those that are watching locally, statewide, and also nationally and even across the world. Welcome to this broadcast of the East County North Star. The East County North Star is an online black newspaper that was founded in the summer of 2020 to give the 47,000 plus African Americans living in East Contra Costa County a voice. I am delighted tonight to have a very special guest with us. I will be your host. My name is Dr. Lamont Francis. I've been an educator for 20 years, and I'm also the senior pastor of the Delta Bay Church of Christ, located in the city of Antioch, California. Tonight we have a very special guest with us, and her name is Miss Ellie Householder, and she is here with us, and she is the city clerk for the city of Antioch, and she is also the Antioch Unified School District School Board President. She's also a trustee, and she is here tonight to talk about the state of African American students in the district. So welcome, Ellie. Thank you so much for coming on this broadcast.
Yes, thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here
Oh,
and to
yeah.
be able to talk about this.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have some fun tonight. So, some of the viewers out there in Black Antioch and just around Black East County may not know who you are, and I think they're going to be amazed at the end of this program. So, to tell us where you are from, represent yourself.
No pressure, right? I'm from Antioch, born and raised here. I've lived here my whole life. I've had brief stints in Washington, D.C. and in Berkeley for school. But born and raised here in Antioch.
Born and raised, local product from the A. All right, so can you tell us a little bit about your educational journey?
Yeah, so I am a proud product of Antioch schools. I started off elementary school at Turner Elementary School and went there K-5. I went to Antioch Middle School because I actually grew up not too far from here over in the Sycamore area. And then I went to high school at Antioch High School, and I started high school in 2008, which was, a very difficult year to start high school. And my family, unfortunately, were victims of the Great Recession, and so we had become unhoused. We had lost our housing my freshman year of high school. And so to say that it was a difficult experience for me, I think would be putting it quite mildly, along with, a plethora of other family problems that are really rooted in poverty that I'm sure folks can imagine. And so what I ended up doing, because I just really couldn't deal with being at Antioch High School for a lot of different reasons, is I transferred to Prospects, and I graduated at the age of 16. Even though there were people that told me I wasn't going to graduate, I not only graduated, but it was early. And then from there, I went to LMC for a little bit. I was at community college for 4 or 5 years, which is kind of typical now, right? And I earned 2 associate's degrees there, one in paralegal studies, the other in just like a general liberal arts social studies. And then I transferred to UC Berkeley, go Bears, and graduated 2016 with a bachelor's in American Studies. So my thesis was politics, poverty, and justice. And I actually wrote my thesis in hyphy music, Bay Area hip-hop music.
Tell me where to go.
Exactly, right? And so I really used that music as a way to explain what was going on in the years right before the Great Recession, especially in Black and brown communities, right? Disinvestment, everything, past the 70s, crack epidemic, and how that music was, kind of a form of resistance against control. And so from there, I came back to Antioch, and I started working in the Antioch School District as a research analyst, and I was helping actually previous director Jason Murphy on LCAP-related things, so doing a lot of community engagement. And then just this last year, I graduated with a master's in public policy from UC Berkeley again, so a lot of school.
Yeah, a lot of school. I know all about that. Well, obviously, you're well educated and well informed. What interested you in social justice? How did you get involved in social justice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, I didn't really seek out social justice. Social justice sought out me. You know, growing up in the area of Antioch that I grew up in, it just never made sense to me why my friends, my family were struggling so much. And I really struggled a lot, like, oh, well, why can't we just not be poor anymore? Why don't we have opportunities? Why is it so hard for me to get a job? And then the older I got, the more I started to see me and family members who are black and brown, me and my friends who, you know, as a white woman, and seeing how, you know, the inequalities that were, you know, developed throughout the Great Recession, it became very clear that even though I was struggling, that there were a lot of people in my life who were struggling way more. And so not only did I feel this sense of injustice, you know, growing up and not really understanding why things were so difficult, but throughout the recession, you know, it just became very clear to me that something was wrong. And so that's why I went to school, because I wanted to figure out what was wrong.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about, briefly, an article you wrote in a paper about a year ago, in which you talk about the racism that you saw in Antioch Unified School District. I'm just going to read a portion of it, and you can expound on it if you would like. The reality is what is happening here is a part of a national awakening to issues of race and racism in our public institutions. For example, it is no secret that AUSD suspends black boys at a rate 7 times higher than their white counterparts. It's also no secret that our higher level management lacks the same diversity that our larger population has. And it's no secret that across the board, our students of color perform worse academically. What made you want to write that?
Wow, there was a lot of reasons that kind of led me to almost a bit of a breaking point. And so to kind of back up, one of my main reasons for wanting to run for school board, I didn't really have ambitions to be in politics, but I saw, working as a research analyst, you started to see how the sausage was made, so to speak. And I knew that kind of, you know, problematic ideology stems from the top, right? And, you know, I'm sure we can all understand how if you have somebody who's negative at the top, everything's gonna roll downhill. And so over the 2 years, my first 2 years, I mean, honestly, my first night as a school board member, I saw a fellow trustee, Crystal Sawyer White, be passed up for what should have been a very easy, you know, decision or conversation as board president. For folks that don't know, board presidents, we have typically, for decades and decades and decades, just been on a rotating basis. That's what's fair. We're all equally elected. Everybody gets a chance, right? And my very first night, I heard, to me, it was coded racism, but I mean, I saw right through it. It's, well, Crystal doesn't have the demeanor. She doesn't have the experience. She lacks basic understanding. And I'm like, okay, well, that's all fine and dandy, but thousands of people in Antioch voted her, so that's not really your judgment call to make. And it was extremely upsetting because I saw how upset it made this person. I'm like, this is my first night. You guys can't even put on like a, you know, a pretend face. And then I had a board member after that meeting set up a meeting with me to explain in great length why she was not a racist. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is how it's gonna be on this board. And I think that they thought maybe I was gonna be different than I was. And, I started pointing things out, things that are reasonable, things that are, pretty obviously problematic, even just like, from a humanistic level. And so, those are just some examples of what I experienced at every single board meeting. There's just such a resistance to talk about the racial implications of the decisions we're making. There's such a resistance to doing basic things like disaggregating data. When we bring up academic achievement data, it's attacked for, it's, standardized testing is problematic, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but then you still point to the same numbers when they're good. But when they're bad, we want to explain it away. And to me, I've said it so many times, if you truly love something, you have to be able to critique it. And so I just felt like I was being stifled. My voice was being stifled at any possibility possible. I felt very, very attacked with the types of topics that we talked about, just being really stonewalled. And so I was like, you know what, like my allegiance isn't to my colleagues. I respect my colleagues, I try to be professional, but at a certain point, somebody has to say something, right? And I am a white person. It shouldn't be black and brown folks who are constantly having to say, no, there's a problem within our communities. Our kids don't know how to read, and so I really felt like this overwhelming sense of responsibility that with my background and the color of my skin, that I had to use my privilege to put it out there and to just bring it out into the open, because sunlight's the best disinfectant, and we have to talk about this. And it's not bad. I'm not pointing the finger at any one individual. This is a system. And I was trying to explain that in the only way that I knew how, which was to go right to the community.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. And so you talked about some of the pushback that you received. You were called names by white people?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They called you white savior. Mm-hmm. Why do you want to identify with these people? All kind of names?
Yeah, I got called everything from Hitler to Charles Manson's wife to a pimple-faced lesbian to whatever. It was every single attack. There's ageism, all in it. There's just weird gender things that I, never expected, but it gave me more, honestly, I'm like, oh, okay, so if they're saying this to me publicly, what are they saying to our kids in the classroom?
Exactly. And so this is what happens. When you decide to stand up for black folks, you will get treated like one. Unfortunately, that's what happens. So you talked about some of the pushback, and it was pretty ugly. Do you want to talk about some of the systemic racism that you've seen in Antioch Unified School District?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just like such a lofty question, but education in general it's built on a racist foundation, right?
Say that again.
I mean, it is.
It is.
And what's happened throughout the years is actually, and I don't think folks really understand the implications of Brown v. Board of Education for actually putting a lot of these issues underground. And so when you have these, huge civil rights pushes, the system wants to protect itself. Right, and so yeah, we have LCFF. We're supposed to be, gearing money towards our most at-need students. Yeah, our schools are desegregated, et cetera, et cetera. But then why is it that our black kids still don't know how to read? Why is it that our, black and brown students aren't getting in, aren't as A to G ready, aren't as college ready as their counterparts? And so, I think that there's the systemic nature of it is on multiple levels. And I think the thing that's been most difficult for me with this is any individual is really racist, but they're standing on top of a racist foundation. They're supporting racist institutions, and they kind of hide under this guise of like, well, I'm not racist. I believe in equity. I believe in progress. But then it's like, but why aren't we disaggregating data then? You know?
That's absolutely. I always say this, everybody will tell you that racism does exist, but at the same time, when you ask who in here is racist, nobody's racist. But then how is this system continually to be perpetuated? And so talk to me about the state of African American students in the Antioch Unified School District as the board president.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, on paper, right, because there's what's real and kind of what's on paper in a lot of ways, right? We don't have that great of data collection, but what we do have shows that our Black students perform worse in every single academic indicator across the board, like significantly worse. And the only group of students that performs worse are actually students with disabilities, and we know that our Black students are over-identified as a student with a disability. And so to me, I view, like, I'm like, okay, so then that's just another group of Black and brown students predominantly. And so across every academic indicator, so math, English, science, history, and then, you know, they're being suspended at a rate 7 times more than their peers. I actually just reviewed our expulsion data. There was not a single white student on the last data set that we have, not a single white student expelled, but 8 Black students. And those students, I mean, if you get expelled, that's the end of your life, pretty much. In terms of educationally, there's ways, you know, GED, all this, but it just, you know, we just knocked them down before they even got started. And so, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about the state, but it's on paper doesn't look good. But I will say that within our schools, we have some of the most amazing Black students. I mean, students in general, but I think of Ariana Grady, who...
She's awesome.
Right.
Isn't she?
And so I just think about, like, when I think about the state of Black students, I'm like, Black students are doing great because they're great, but the system that they're operating in is broken.
Got you. Let's talk briefly about police and schools. You voted no. Why?
I mean, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to put a police officer in a school patrolling our students. Like, fundamentally, not a good idea. I actually, when I was at Antioch High School, we had an SRO, and my personal experience with them is not good. My sister was arrested by an SRO for, you know, getting in an altercation in a fight, which, you know, normally would have been a suspension. Now that was on her record, had to go to juvenile hall. She didn't graduate high school. And so I've seen firsthand from her personal experience how those, you know, officers don't actually keep our kids safer. They're actually making things worse for them and making their lives less safe in a lot of ways. And I think that overall, I mean, it was painful, to say the least, that we were even considering it with the backdrop of Black Lives Matter. You know, and it was before George Floyd, but
it was in the backdrop of this young man,
exactly.
John, unfortunately losing his life there at Deer Valley, and that was the catalyst to go ahead, and the answer was to put cops in schools.
That's the narrative that some folks want there to be. That was already happening before. That grant was already written before. And so then they capitalized, they co-opted the pain of this family to say, oh, look, we're responding. And it's like, no, if you were responding, you would have had a cop there that night. That would have been responding, but you didn't, and now you're trying to cover it up. To me, it's disingenuous to say that that's why we sought that grant, because it's not.
Understood. And so what we're going to do is we're going to I'm going to put on the screen some data and you feel free to chime in at any time because you are the board president. And obviously, you'll be more knowledgeable about some of this stuff than me. But this is stuff that you can find on DataQuest and the California Department of Education. So if we can look at the enrollment by ethnicity, if we can put that on the screen, the enrollment by ethnicity. At this time, in 2019 to 20 school years, the last data we have, African Americans represent almost a quarter of the student population at 24%. 24%. The white population of students in Antioch Unified School District was 12%. That means that black students outnumber white students 2-1. I want you to remember that, 2-1, okay? Latinx students represent 47% of they comprise of the students, okay? Now, the largest racial group, however, because we know Hispanic is an ethnicity, the largest racial group is African American at 24%. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Okay, keep that in mind. The raw number is just over 4,000. 4,025 is what I had. If you give me that slide, there are 4,000. Okay, I want you to remember that 4,025 African American students in the Antioch Unified School District. Okay, so we are 4,000 strong from K to 12, But we want you to look at the next slide. I want you to look at the number of teachers, all right? And I'm sure Ms. Householder understands and she knows that African American teachers, even though we represent almost a quarter of the students, we only represent 7% of the teachers, okay? The influences are happening in that classroom. The kids that are failing because of the classroom. Now, you have some amazing teachers in Antioch Unified School District, and you got some that are not so amazing, okay? That's just the way it is, right? I think we all understand that. But we have to understand that an African-American student that comes to Antioch Unified School District as the largest racial group, okay, is not likely to see someone that looks like them. These have effects. Studies show that when students that have somebody that look like them, they tend to do better. All the studies say that, okay? Now, white students represent how many? What's the percent? 12, right? Remember that, 12%. But they represent 77% of the teachers. I'm gonna say that again. White students, 12% of the students, but 77% of the teachers, okay? Now, how do we change that? I'm going to get to that. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to give you a roadmap to advocate, okay? So, only 7%, okay, of the teachers in this district are African American. Now, in that 7%, did you not know that in Antioch Unified School District there is no Black Teachers Association? There's one in Mount Diablo. We helped them get started. They're doing fantastic things. We started one in Liberty Union High School District. There is no Black Teachers Association in Antioch, okay? And I need you to understand that Antioch is now the Black capital of Contra Costa County. We have more Black people in this city. Over 22,000 Black people live in the city of Antioch. There are more Black people that live in Antioch than Richmond. So we are now the Black capital, and there is no Black Teachers Union. So how does that affect the recruitment and the retention, right?
That's key, is the retention of those teachers.
Has any Black teachers ever reached out to you?
I mean, I have friends that are Black teachers, but I know just even in the short tenure from working there that we lost a lot of not only Black teachers but administrators as well, because of what I would, kind of simplify as a toxic environment. Got you.
So let's look at the suspension rate, if we can pull up the suspension rate. Okay, and this is from last year. I want you to look at the numbers. African American students are suspended, okay? Look at the suspension rate, 14.8%. But what I want you to do is I want you to go down and look at, okay, the Latinx community, 5.6%. And I want you to look at the white student suspension rate, 4.6%. Okay? And so we are 3 times as likely last year to be suspended than our white counterparts. 3 times as likely. I want you to understand that. I want you to understand the implication of all those missed days of school. Now, here's what you're going to hear, because we always hear this narrative. Well, the suspension rate has been going down the last 3 years. And you know what I'll say about that? That is true. But let me tell you something. They're going down for every racial group. They're going down across the state because you can no longer suspend for what we call K, or disrespect. Once that was taken out, suspension rates went down across the board. But if you are not reading, and if you don't understand, if you don't know any better, you'll buy into the narrative that just because the suspension rates are going down, that things are better for your kids. Let me tell you something. Always look at the disproportionality. Look at where your kids are. Look at where white students are, right? Look at other racial groups, and then you do your comparison. And what you will see is that we are still 3 times as likely, okay? And this is a school district that says we stand for social justice, and look at it, and we stand for social equity and equality and all of these other things. But all I want you to do is look at the numbers. The numbers do not lie. Okay, there's a problem. Mr. Willie Mims, the educational chair from the NAACP, and you know how he is. He doesn't play that. He's been saying this for years. He goes to every board meeting and he says it. You have a problem, you have a problem, you have a problem, you have a problem. Now we are going to back up Mr. Mims. And we are here to say, as a community, there is a problem. There is issues. Are there things that are going right? Yes. But guess what? We have to attack those things that are not, okay? Anytime you want to chime in, just...
Yeah, I mean, I think with the suspension, too, that's something that's been weighing on my mind heavily, too, and I've talked to many people in the community about it, is like, okay, yeah, the suspension rates are going down, which you pointed out has to do with, like, a larger kind of discipline practice. But I always think about the data that we don't have, and I know that that's always like, oh, okay, the data that we don't have. But from anecdotally, my understanding is that kids are being pulled out of classes and basically having an on-school suspension type experience that's not recorded because it's not going through the suspension kind of process. And so how many learning loss hours, I feel like if we had that information, I mean, we would probably be taken over by the state.
So here's what takes place, and take it from a former administrator and someone who's been in the schools. You have what they call on-campus suspension, right? When your child is in on-campus suspension, okay, they are supposed to be in there with a credentialed teacher. That is the law. That is the law. They're supposed to be there with a credentialed teacher that is helping them to do their work. If that is not taking place, that is a violation. That is a violation. Please reach out to us. We will advocate for you. That's a problem. And so all of this is happening, right? You have to work, so you want your kids at school. They'll put them in on-campus suspension, but a lot of times a credentialed teacher is not there giving them the instruction that they need, okay? And so we still see this suspension rate, right? Let's move down to the academic scores. Let's move down to some of the test scores. Let's look at the black student scores from the other year, 2018, 2019, because that's the latest numbers that are posted. And I just want you to know that since we've been in quarantine, you take all of these numbers and you just tack on another 10 or 15 points. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, you know, in quarantine, it hasn't gotten worse, right? And when white students get a cold, black students get the flu. You know that. But watch this. I want you to see, okay? Look at those ELA scores. So you have 75% of African American students, 75% of African American students are not meeting the state requirement in English language arts. 75%. You have African American students in some cases that are finishing worse than English language learners. Okay? And so in other words, 3 out of 4 K through 12 African American students are not at the basic state level. This is a crisis, folks. This is a crisis. This is called a psychoacademic holocaust. This is an academic genocide that is going on. These numbers are criminal. 3 out of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 of them are not at a basic level in terms of state standards, and it does not reflect the genius of the black community. We know our kids are smart. We understand that, okay? Now I want you to look at the maths numbers. I want you to look at the numbers of the black students that are not meeting state standards in math. 91%. I'm going to say that again. 91%.
Yeah, no, definitely. Something too I just wanted to
Go
add
ahead.
on to it is that, you know, I have that same data set, and one of the things that, you know, I thought would be interesting to add on to this is the standard exceeded percentages as well, because we see that, you know, it's almost, you know, over 60% not meeting standards, black students, and only 4.7%, so 5%, are exceeding standards, whereas 14% of white students are exceeding. So again, you see it on kind of both ends, and I do think it's important to think about things in the deficit and the growth. And so if we're talking about making data-driven decisions, you know, why, like, what's happening here as well? Because it's not only the students that aren't meeting, you know, why can't more students exceed as well? So I just think that's like an interesting
So
level.
with those numbers, white students are 3 times as likely to succeed standards than black students.
Yeah.
And then we talk about equity. That's right. So everything is about equity. We just had a Martin Luther King program with the district. We shall overcome. We were talking about lift every voice and sing. All of these things, those are wonderful. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the numbers. The numbers are not like, the symbolism is great. Let's talk about the substance, right? Let's talk about the substance. 9 out of 10. We invented math. You go to Egypt, they still can't figure out how they built these pyramids. That was black people. That was people of African descent. How can 9 out of 10 not meet state standards in mathematics? This is criminal. But you won't hear this. But you're going to hear from us. Thank God for the East County North Star, because we're going to speak that truth tonight. We're going to have some church tonight. This is straight gospel tonight. And holler if you hear me. Put it in the chat. Okay? Oh, yeah, you didn't know you was coming to church tonight, huh? Yeah, just say amen when you can, sister.
Yes.
Say amen.
Amen. I think another thing, too, just to, again, add on to this conversation, because I think when people, you know, who are maybe naysayers in the community, their response would be, oh, well, those kids just don't know how to take a test, right? Or there's something else going on. They didn't take the test seriously. So that's one of the things, again, explaining it away. But if we're thinking about things, you know, from an equity standpoint, you know, the state of California has us look at socioeconomically disadvantaged students, so your poorest students. And when we look at that population as well, I mean, we only have 13% of low-income students who are meeting math standards. And so, you know, rising tides lifts all boats, right? We could see, okay, our black students are performing the worst across the board. So if we help them, it helps everybody. It's not just these things, the solutions aren't these standalone things. It's not, oh, well, just black kids need, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, it's going to help everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody.
That's right. That's right. And so, and this is what you have to understand when black students are helped. When you have, you know, an agenda of true equity, what's going to happen is that when you give the students that needed the most help, which is obviously African American students, it's going to help brown students, it's going to help white students, it's going to help Asian students. Everyone is going to benefit, okay? Let's look at the graduation rate, okay? Let's look at the graduation. Let's look at that. All right. Did you not know? Pull that slide up. 69%, 69.6%, okay, of African American students, if you go through Antioch Unified, will graduate, okay? So that's almost 7 out of 10. You'll say that's not bad, okay? That's not bad. Here's what I'm going to ask you this. Then what is happening to those other 30%? What are they going to do? What job will a black person get without a high school diploma? What kind of future do they have? Especially if you're a black male. What is going to happen to you? Okay? Now, here's the deal. I think you already know the answer to that, right? I think you know the answer to that, right? They don't have a shot, okay? Rather than turn to a life of crime, end up dead or in prison, okay? This is how the school to prison pipeline operates, okay? So we got about just under 70% will graduate from school, okay? Now, here's what I want you to understand. Look at the next slide. 86% of black students in the Antioch Unified School District who receive a diploma, okay? So of that 70%, 86% of them that get a diploma, that walk across that stage, I'm African American and I graduated, 86% of them are not A through G ready. Break that down for me, Doc.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Come on.
So you break it down like how are
what
we
is A through G? If 86% of black graduates coming out of Antioch Unified School District are not A through G ready, what does that mean?
So what that means is that there is a certain set of content areas that you have to master in order to go to college. And so A to G, so you only need 130 credits to actually graduate, but in order to have A to G, it's 180, right? And so what that's telling me is not only are the students not completing all the different categories and the amount of content that they need in those categories, but they're doing just the bare minimum then in that case. And so if you aren't A to G ready, you can't just go to a college. You couldn't apply. And if you go to one of our continuation high schools, you're ineligible altogether because there's no
Say that again.
Yeah.
If you go to where?
Continuation high school.
You're ineligible from going where?
To college.
Listen to this. But my child's on the honor roll there. Listen. Listen. What she just said. This is the gospel truth. And we're going to tell you what a lot of other people won't tell you. Okay? Let's look at the next slide. Look at that. 90% of black male students in the Antioch Unified School District, okay, who receive a diploma are not eligible to attend a four-year university. That means 90% of the brothers, 12th grade, that get that diploma, 90%, 9 out of 10 can't go straight to a four-year school. Okay? Then if you look at the data, you know why. If 75% of them are not at a basic level in terms of English language arts, 90% of them, even that in the district, are not meeting state standards when it comes to math. This is why a lot of them can't go straight to a 4 years. So they're sitting there with this diploma, and this is what happens. Then you call me. Then they call me and say, can you do a job reference? Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Because I have this diploma and it means nothing because I don't have the basic standards. Well, Dr. Francis, they say, graduation rates have gone up for African-American students. They're right.
Yeah.
They're right. But here's what they won't tell you, okay? With the elimination of the California exit exam, it has gone up for everybody. Okay? So don't buy that. Don't buy that. Okay? That data, right? And the California exit exam was simply 8th grade reading, writing, and math. 8th grade. And that was eliminated because there were a lot of equity issues, right? With that, right? And so our kids had to master 8th grade standards to get out of the 12th grade There was a lot of equity issues. That was eliminated. Now more people are graduating, and we're graduating saying what? Here's the deal. The diploma on your wall, it has to mean something. Because what happens is these boys and girls, they are graduating. They're going to LMC. They're going to DVC. They're getting the English 101 class. And then the professor says, I need you to write an essay, 3-page essay. I need it to be double-spaced, APA. And they don't have the basic building block. They don't have it. Okay? And it's becoming the 13th grade. So here's the deal. We have to address this at the K through 12 level, okay? So don't buy into the symbolism. We need to have substance.
Yeah, and I think something else to add to that too is that you'll hear, the kind of talking point that the continuation high school kids or the kids who are falling behind or who are credit deficient, they could just enroll in LMC. But again, it's thinking about this idea of it there being an equity issue. Why should I have to then, take time that I could be working, earning money for my family or whatever, just hanging out with my friends to go take an additional class on top of the 8 hours that I was in school 5 days a week, right? And then, also just speaking from personal experience, I graduated from Prospects. I had to take 1.5 years of remedial math, 1.5 years in college to even be able to get up to where I could take a regular math class. And yeah, I'm not a dumb person, and these kids, they're very smart, but there's a fundamental curriculum issue as well. And so I think that it's just important to note that folks will say, oh, well, they can enroll in LMC or do Odyssey Ware or whatever, but then what are they doing in the classroom? Exactly.
This is what you have to understand. It's a system. As she mentioned earlier, the educational system was founded on racism. Right? Brown versus Board allowed us to integrate. So there was integration, but there was never truly desegregation. You understand? That we were allowed to move in, but never move up. Remember that. Remember that. Most of the genius that you see celebrated on the walls of a lot of these teachers in the Antioch Unified School District, a lot of the genius you see on those walls came out of segregated schools. Chew on that. They came out of segregated black schools where the teachers look like the kids. Remember, I just want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. Some of the latent effects of Brown versus Board is a lot of black educators lost their jobs because, remember, they could teach our kids, but we couldn't teach theirs. And so a lot of black educators left the field and never got a chance to come back in. This is why you have a district like Antioch, and it's not just here, it's all across the country, 24% black student population, 7% in the classroom. Now, let's talk about some of the staffing, right? We talked about the students, that this is Black History Month. Let's talk about some of the staffing because I believe that the lack of diversity in staffing, has a correlation to the underachievement of black students in the classroom. In the Antioch Unified School District, if you can give me that slide, there are, I believe, 25 schools. Is it 25 or 27?
It's 24, but it's technically 26 if you include Encore in the adult school, but I usually say 24 for our
okay, I thought it was 25. Okay, so so 24. Out of those 24 schools, 6 of them have an African-American principal. Okay, which is around 24%, maybe even higher, okay? So a quarter of the schools have African-American principals. Now, that actually matches the student population, so good job, district. We will give props where props is due. Now, but we're going to read between the lines tonight, okay? Because those schools, Black Diamond, shout out to the principal of Black Diamond. You know I love you, Phyllis. That's my heart. I love her. Jack London, Lone Tree, Deer Valley, Dallas Ranch. I think all their administrators are black. That's a wonderful thing. And Live Oak. Shout out to Coop. Listen, out of those 6 schools, 5 of those schools, okay, are headed by African American women, strong sisters. Okay, Now, the group that is suffering the most are African-American males. Now, I want you to understand, in order for any black young man, okay, student in Antioch Unified School District to see himself or to see another black male in administration, guess what? He has to go to Live Oak. He has to be at a continuation school. In other words, you can't see anybody that looks like you until you are credit deficient. I want you to chew on that. Until you are credit deficient. That's the only time you're going to see a principal that looks like you. Shout out to Coop. Okay?
Yeah, and just to add on to that as well, I have actually had students say that they desperately want to go to Live Oak because of the reputation that Mr. Cooper has in the community.
Yes.
And if you go to the school and you see how he's able to interact with all his students,
Yes.
it's incredible. I mean, he's literally
awesome.
turning lives around.
Yeah.
But there's 130 students that go there, and it fluctuates. But that Live Oak, the way that it's set up, it typically catches a lot of our students who are involved in the criminal justice system. And so in that sense, you know, I think about the kid who maybe isn't doing well, isn't super behind, hasn't been involved in the criminal justice system, who is black, who knows Mr. Cooper's reputation, he can't really go there. And so that's something that's also disappointing to me, is that, you know, it's our smallest school, and in reality it should be, to me, 3 times as big at least, because of the success that he has at
Mr.
getting
Cooper.
kids
Yes.
to graduate.
So shout out to Coop. We need to have Coop at a comprehensive school. So I want you to see this, because this district in the past have had criticism for not promoting African American males, right? And again, look at the data. This is the data. The data will tell you everything, okay? Now, look at the next slide. I want you to see 52%, 52%, okay? Remember that number, 52%, okay, of Antioch Unified School District administrators are white. 52%. They make up how much of the student population? White students? 12. But they make up 52% of the district's administrators. 12% of the population, but 52% of the district administrators. You cannot tell me there's not a systematic advantage, okay? The numbers bear that out, right? So the numbers don't lie, okay? But we're gonna talk. We're gonna get to the root of this stuff, okay? Also, I want you to look at this next number, 0. 0. There are 0 African Americans in the Antioch Unified School District Executive Cabinet. Go do your research. 0. Now, why do you say that, Dr. Francis? I'm going to tell you why. It's because it is the Executive Cabinet that makes the decisions for the district. You want to know why? Stop trying to solve everything at a micro level. Leave your teachers and stop messing with the black principals and leave them alone, because they take their orders from the Executive Cabinet. Okay? 0. That means, in terms of curriculum, all these things that are crucial in terms of equity, all these things, okay? They take their orders from the Executive Cabinet, and there is no African Americans in the Executive Cabinet. You need somebody there with community connections. You need somebody in the Executive Cabinet, okay, that has ties to the Antioch black community, so we can hold them accountable, so they can let us know what's going on if you want to bridge the divide, okay? If not, the school will continue to exist as an island within its own community, and we will see this systematic failure happen time and time again, okay? So we don't exist there. Okay, now.
I just want to add on to that
go
too,
for it.
Is that just like you were saying with having a black teacher in the classroom, I think it's just as important to have that in the executive staff for the students and the parents as well. Because imagine you're a parent and you're having an issue, or you need to talk to a superintendent, and none of them look like you, you know? And so I think it's also important, like, you know, we think of the district office as like being maybe a bit more nebulous, a little bit more disconnected, but there's a lot of interface with the community. And that was actually one of the arguments, or kind of things I was pushing when Trustee Crystal Sawyer White was surpassed. Yes. Because to be able to see a strong educated Black woman in that position could have done, I mean, that alone could have done
And Crystal
so
Sawyer
much.
White was the only one in there with a master's degree at the time.
Yeah, she was.
She was the most educated.
Yeah, she
but
was.
but it was said that she is not ready, or
Yeah, she doesn't have the demeanor or
the
the
demeanor.
qualifications.
A sister with a master's degree. Okay, all right, and okay, and so again, as a pastor, I'm gonna tell you this. The Bible says you will know a tree by the fruit it bears, not by the bark. I don't care what they bark. Look at the fruit the tree is bearing, and that will tell you, the fruit, and that will tell you everything about the tree, okay? So the executive cabinet, you can go ahead and put that up there, okay? As you'll see, there is not diverse, and I think that's an issue. That's something that needs to be addressed. If we want to talk about true equity, that needs to be addressed. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the slide, and I want you to see the I want you to see the chart, the power chart. I want you to see how this is all from the district website. Okay, I want you to see how this thing works. I want you to see the flow chart from the district. This is all from the district website. Okay, here's what you need to understand. If you're an African American parent, and this is a broadcast for Black Antioch, okay, Black Pittsburgh, Black Oakley. If you are an African American parent, you saying, I don't like what's going on right now with my kid. If you're satisfied, you're cool, that's good, okay? But if you are not, listen to me, Black folk, listen. You can keep going to your principal, you can keep going to the teacher, okay? But ultimately, I'm gonna tell you, they don't make final decisions. Yes, Antioch Unified School District does have, I think the number of Black administrators is 27%, something like that. Listen, administrators, and I'm knowing this as a former administrator, we don't make decisions. The executive office does, the cabinet does. They take their orders from downtown, okay? And so they can only help you so much. You have to go to the top. Okay, and the superintendent, her name is Miss Stephanie Anello. I'm gonna say that again, Stephanie Anello, like Breonna Taylor, say her name, Stephanie Anello. Stephanie Anello, you can put it in the chat, okay? She is a superintendent. She is making close to $260,000 a year. This is all public record. Why? Because this is your tax dollars. She's making over $250,000 a year. Now, watch this. I need you to understand that this woman right here is her boss, not the other way around, okay? Here's how it works. If you look at the flow chart, listen, the superintendent doesn't run everything. Guess what? Guess who she has to be accountable to? The board. And guess who chooses the board?
The people.
The people. Ding, 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 ding. Good answer, good answer, good answer. Right? You did. You choose that board. You chose Ms. Household. You did. You went. You chose our brother, Dr. Lewis. Shout out to Dr. Lewis. You chose that brother. Okay? You chose Mr. Hernandez. Okay? You did all this. Mr. Hack. You did this. Okay? And Ms. Rocha. You chose this board. You chose them. Okay? They represent your interests. Now, we know we need a change. We need a change. And this is me talking. We need a change at the top. You know what you need to do. And I'm going to just say this because you didn't know I was going to say this. This woman was attacked last month. She was attacked. She was attacked. She was attacked last month by union workers. She was attacked because she says, like every other person, we need to evaluate our superintendent, Ms. Stephanie Anello. We got to evaluate her. Who doesn't get an evaluation? Didn't say it was going to be bad. Just say, we're going to do an evaluation. And guess what? Attacks. She needs to learn something. She needs to do this. They attacked her because the data says something. She was attacked. Okay? That's we cannot have a school district like that. Okay? The board runs the superintendent. She works for the people. She works for us, okay? The superintendent this is not her private entity. She is not running the district with her own hard-earned money. It is state money. It's tax money. It's your money. The public schools have to belong to the public. They have to belong to the community. This city, remember this city, 22,000 black folks. We're over 20% of the city. Okay? You've already decided for change. You voted for change. You already did. All we're saying is cash in your chips. Look at the data. You do your own research. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but you come to your own conclusion. Do you want to continue as is? When the Clippers didn't make the playoffs, guess what? Guess what? They blew a 3-1 lead. They didn't get rid of Kawhi Leonard. They didn't get rid of Paul George. Stop blaming the black kids. Guess what they did? They looked at management. They looked at management. And then you know what? I know you're going to say, oh, yeah, you got to get the teachers have a strong union. It's hard to touch a teacher. But administrators have no union. Administrators have no union. You can get rid of them, okay? If it's not working, you got to switch course. And it's nothing personal. But this is systemic racism. And let me tell you something. Racism is never personal. Racism is business, and it is profitable. Big business. There is an educational system that has turned black into a permanent underclass. Permanent underclass. Did you see the report? 7 out of 10 are not at a basic level in terms of reading and writing. You know what that means? They can barely read. What are they going to do out there? And then guess what? All we get is a We Shall Overcome, and all we get is an MLK program, and all we get is a Lift Every Voice and Sing. Get out of here with that. It's 2021. We woke now. All right, so now watch this. Amen? Are you okay? No, you didn't know you was going to church tonight. Oh, yeah, it's going to be on tonight. So now watch this. So as you now see that you have the power, I know you're going to hear things from the district. Let's all work together. Let's work together. But guess what? We're not going to work together with the same inequities. Okay? We're not going to do that. We're not going to come in and be a silent partner. I want you to go ahead. I'll say this. I know the district does have an African-American male initiative program. Okay? Let's get that out. I believe that was started by Dr. Shackelford. Started that. He's a brother who was demoted, who was taken from the program. I'm going to say that. Sister Essence Phillips, I believe, is running it, and she's a good sister. But I want to say this. I want to say this. You have an African American male initiative program, right? In this district. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, what the program is?
Yes, if you want.
Yeah, so African American Male Achievement Program, there's a couple kind of different aspects of it, but there is a parent advisory group, and then there's programs that are within the school. So there's Upward Bound, which is a bridge from 8th grade to high school, and there's also some basically, it's kind of like home ec in a way. There are these kind of it's an elective course where young men are, learn how to tie a tie. They learn, the kind of different life skills. We do not have any data, even though that program has been around for, I think, 5 years now.
Are you referring to the Manhood Development program?
But it's a part of the African American
Male Initiative. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but the data isn't showing that it's improving outcomes.
So I'm going to say what you won't say. There we go. I am Dr. Francis, so I'm going to buckle your safety belts. Okay. Listen, what she said was so true. Okay. The Manhood Development Program, and shout out to Chris Chapman and the brothers over there in the town that are putting in good work. Reaching out to young African American males. Okay, no shade to them. Here's the deal. What I saw was videos of young black men learning how to tie bow ties and ties. And I know we are so thirsty for black male affirmation that anybody wants to do with our kids. Everybody says, sign me up, sign me up. I got twin boys that are 5 years old. They both know how to tie a tie. Guess what? I wear a suit and tie every day. It doesn't mean that they will keep you at a job. They will fire you with a tie on. They will deny you the job with a tie on. You're going to need more than knowing how to tie a bow tie, brothers. You're going to need more than that. Guess what I need to see a video of? I need to see a video of those same young black men writing essays, conjugating the verbs. I need to see basic skills. I need to see that you know an x-axis and a y-axis and know how to do all that. That we get all of the symbolism, that is great. That is a wonderful thing, but you can't make it the substance. Again, look at the test scores. But black folks, don't fall for it. We cannot fall for it in 2021. We got to get past the symbolism and says, just like in that old commercial from the 80s for Wendy's, where's the beef? Where is the beef? I need something to chew on. I don't need any more ceremony and programs and all with the same people saying the same stuff. I need to see change and what we need to do. If we are going to have a program, because look, the brothers in Oakland are doing wonderful jobs coming out here, but let me tell you something. We got black men in Antioch, plenty of them, that can go into these schools, but you have to pay them. You have to put them on contract. And guess what'll happen if you bring black men that live locally? Guess what? We go to church with them. We go to school with them. Not only that, we'll see them in the grocery store. We'll see them at Pop Warner. We can follow through. You got black men that can do that here. We got black contractors that will come in and do more than teach them how to tie a tie. They'll teach them how to read. But you don't want that. Okay? And so here's the problem. We got to get past all of these things. We have to get past all of these things. And we have to hit on the substance. What are the deliverables? You got the African American Male Initiative. Well, I'm going to talk about the indicators of success. Increase black graduation of black males. We need that, okay, because 30% of them are not graduating. Increase the number of students who are A through G ready. 90% of those black males are not. Okay, decrease the number of black males going to special ed. I ain't even talked on special ed. That's going to be a different show. You know that black men overrepresent those that are referred to special ed, right? And special ed has become the new face of Jim Crow. You know it, and I know it. Decrease the number of black male students suspended from school. Obviously, we're still 3 times as likely to get suspended. Okay, so it's the rosy stories. Can you read? Can you write? Can you give me, do we have skills? Do they have a blue-collar skills? Are we teaching that in the school? Skills, we need to bring that back to the school. Skills that pay the bills. This is what we need, okay? So, obviously, you asked, I did my research, but I need you to be intelligent black people and do your own, okay? All right. I know this is tough. LCAP, did you want to touch on LCAP?
Yeah, like just give like a brief overview of
Yes.
what it is. So the LCAP is a local control accountability plan. And so essentially after, years and years of advocacy, the state of California has finally tried to do something different with the way that we allocate money to the different schools. And so there's something within LCAP called the LCFF, which is the funding formula, local control funding formula. And the idea is if you have low-income students, which is free and reduced lunch is the metric we use for that, foster youth, and homeless youth, and English learners. So the amount of students that you have that fall into those categories is what's called your unduplicated count. So almost 74% of our students fall into one of those categories, and a lot of them are falling, honestly, over all 3. And so we get extra money from the state to concentrate funds. That's what we call S&C, supplemental and concentrated funds, to target the gaps for these students. Like, I think we have about 130 foster youth, so it's a small population relative to the 17,000 students that we have, but the idea is that those students have a higher need because of the disadvantages that they face.
So the money that is allocated from the state is supposed to go to these groups. Did you hear that? I could have said, she just said it so beautifully. So remember, free or reduced lunch, that means you're living at or below the poverty level. Okay? And what's the percentage in Antioch Unified?
Free and reduced lunch?
Yeah,
It's
for all students.
Over 70%.
Over 70%, okay, of students that attend AUSD schools, okay, are meeting that criteria. So last year, over 30 million?
Oh, yeah, of supplemental
Yes.
funds? Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, it's over 100 million in this allocation fund overall. So there's 30 million that are the concentrated funds.
Concentrated, yes.
But there's about 100 million more dollars that is what we call base funding. And so with that plan, we have to say in that plan, this is how we're going to help those students.
And did you not know that in order for the executive board down at the district to spend that money, they need your input? They need your input. Do you not know it's against the law for them to decide where that money is going without your input? You need to be there. Now, here's the deal. Here's the deal. There is, if you look at the district website, there is a thing called APAC, okay? There's an African American Parent Advisory Council, okay? Again, started by Dr. Shackelford, okay? We got to get this thing going. Over 70 people show up to the first 150, and then it went down to about 15, right? That show up to each of these meetings, right? Why is when you have over 4,000 black students in this district, how come you can't get more than 15 to 20 black families for a district K-12 in one room? I have a guess. This is just me. It's just me. Black folks are too intelligent. We're too smart. You know the decisions have already been made. You know you are there to fill out that time, to make sure that your name is written in the sign-in sheet so that they can check off the box and say, look at what we have already done, but the money has already been allocated. It has already been decided. You know it and I know it, right? So here's the deal. Those are black parent groups from the district. If you want that, that's fine. Here's what you're going to always see at some of these meetings. You will always see a district official, okay, that will be there to make sure that y'all stay in line and that you guys are not talking about what we're talking about tonight, that everything stays rosy, everything stays good, everything is okay, and they can paint and they can control the narrative, okay? So if you want to show up to that, that's your prerogative. That's fine. Here's what I'm saying. There's already an East Bay Black Parent group. We will put it, check our Facebook. We will give you the link. We will meet this Sunday at 2 p.m. If you want to hear the truth, if you want to hear the truth, we will tell you how to advocate for your child, and we will tell you how you can be in charge of where that money goes, okay? Because I know right now you'll look at the LCAP plan. It'll say things like social emotional counselor for every site. Great, but do you know which counselors are being hired? Do the counselors look like you? Are they culturally responsive? You don't know, because guess what? There's somebody else hiring them, okay? Oh, LCAP money says a VP at some of the elementary schools. Do you know who's being hired? Are you on the panel? Who is making these decisions? Stephanie Anello. At the end of the day, the executive cabinet, okay? They are making the final choices about who is around your kids. That's why I'm not in Antioch Unified School District, okay? Because they are making decisions about who is around your children, and you have no say, okay? But the schools belong to the public. Okay, so you had Dr. Shackelford. He was off. He was removed and demoted. You don't know this, right? But all of this is public record. You have to know all of these things, the things that are going on in these schools, okay? All right, so with that money, with the LCAP money that you just mentioned, okay, I need to say this, and then we'll just have some closing statements, okay? I want you to go ahead and put up, Sandy, do we have a clip? Put up the clip, the Mercury News, okay? LCAP money. Money, These are poverty dollars that are supposed to go to close the achievement gap. Okay? They're supposed to go to these poor groups, black, brown, foster youth, homeless, English language learners. Okay? I want you to see this is all in the news. Okay? Mercury News says, Antioch, school superintendent to pay local media outlet $54,000 for positive news. And that contract, I believe, is even more than that, but we'll just go with the Mercury News. $54,000 went to Mike Burkholder, who is the editor of the East County North Star. Not North Star, sorry, East County Today. Okay, in East County Today, I said North Star. East County Today. He is the editor of the East County Today. Okay, so Stephanie Anello goes into LCAP funds. Our money, brown folk money, black folk money, foster youth, takes that money, poverty dollars, gives it to conflict of interest, gives it to Mike Burkholder of the East County Today. Okay? Now, I want you to see, look at the next clip. Watch this. Watch this. Okay? East County Today. And this was December 21st, 2020. Ahead of Antioch School Board meeting, more than 1,400 have signed a petition in support of superintendent. Go to East County Today. I want you to do your research. And you will see nothing but positive things about what? The superintendent who gave her the money. They took poverty dollars and bought her PR. Bought her PR. Then you look at East County Today and look at everything about Miss Householder, everything about Crystal Sawyer White, Deborah Vincent, Dr. Francis, anybody, you just look, you'll see negativity. Negativity, all negativity. So therefore, the dollars that were supposed to go to equity are being used to attack people that are advocating for you. Think about it. Not with private funds, but with state funds. There was a conflict of interest. So anytime you see a wide support, 1,400, look at those signatures. Union. Because somebody is kicking somebody down some money. Listen, where was the black parent support for the superintendent? You tell me when I looked at the whole board meeting. Black, just give me one. 4,000 black kids. Give me one black parent. Just give me 4 or 5. Just give me that. How many of you supported? It wasn't you supporting. It wasn't our brown brothers and sisters. These were teachers. Teachers. They came out to support the one who is supporting them. Because she said you're going to get an evaluation because of the systemic racism that we see on paper. If there's nothing to hide, take your evaluation like we all do. Okay? But listen, let me tell you something. You know as well as I know, if we fix these schools in Antioch, black man, white man, brown man, Asian man, your home values will go up. You know it and I know it. Your home values will go up. You know that a change has to happen. Stop being afraid. Here's what you have to do. You have to learn to advocate. You have to learn. You have to know what's at stake here. Now, if you can sleep at night knowing that 9 out of 10 black students will not be proficient in terms of math, 3 out of 4 of them will not be proficient in English, English language arts. They're 3 times as likely to be suspended. If you can sleep at night, okay, I don't make $260,000 a year, okay? I'm just like you, we're all trying to keep the lights on. If you are okay with that, and you can sleep at night, if you're a black educator or a black resident, fine, that's you. That's you. And I'm going to speak for a lot of the black educators who have called me and said, you need to speak up. Something has to be said. They can't talk because they have bills to pay, okay? Watch the spokespeople, okay, for the system. I don't care if they look like us. Zora Neale Hurston once said, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Watch who's in their pocket, because you can't fight white supremacy when you're being funded by it. Watch the dollars. Watch the dollars. Don't say, oh, they're black, they're brown, they must have our best interest. No. Look at who is funding them. Look at the funding source. Be smart, people. Dr. Francis is not funded by anybody. This is why I'm free to talk, because all the scared black people in Antioch are dead. It's 2021, and we're going to speak that truth. This is the truth hour tonight. So I want you to do your research. And once you dig deep, you will know that something doesn't smell right, and there needs to be a change. Here's the good news. In November of 2020, you voted for change. You already did. All we're saying is cash in the chips. Support the ones that are supporting you. Guess what? Miss Householder right here, she has already put herself out there. And guess what? She's only doing it because it's right. She does it. It's not popular. She's been called names. She's been called the N-word lover. She's been called all of these things. This stuff does hurt. But she's doing it not because it's popular. She's doing it because it is right. So we're talking to white people too. Social justice loving white people. You know this is not right. I know your children may not be black, but let me tell you something. You know it's not right. My brown brothers and sisters, you know this is not right. It's just not right. You know we need change. This is Black History Month, okay? This is Black History Month. And so as we look at the gatekeepers, we have to make a change there at the top. Stop looking at the micro level, and let's start looking at things at the macro level. Anything that you want to say, close it up. I know I didn't got on my pulpit tonight, but go ahead.
No, I mean, I really appreciate being here and having this conversation because, you know, being on the board, it is very difficult because these things are created in such a way to make it seem more confusing than it is. And you just said, you know, start digging deep and you'll see what the truth is. You don't even need to dig deep. You just need to understand that SNC money is poverty dollars, and that money has been periodically used to fund things that have nothing to do with the kids who are most at need. And so, you know, if anybody can reach out to me, literally anybody, I would love to talk to people if you want to know more about how to get involved. Try to join your school site council. They're the ones that deal with the budget at your school, and that informs the budget overall for the entire district. And I mean, we really need support. This isn't secrets.
Yeah, we need that. And also, let me also say this, that the East County Today, right, was called out for the racist caricatures of black folks. Look at that. That article is still available, East County North Star, okay? So what I need you to see, I need you to see the connections and how this thing is worked. This stuff is working, and the propaganda that's being used to fool you, okay? Mess with the people that are rolling with us. Ellie, you down? Come on, you down? Come on, give me some down now. All right, so if you're down, you're down. All right, here's we're gonna leave with this, and this is, I got this from the Antioch Unified School District Facebook page, okay? I'm gonna talk about Black History Month. It says, with Rosa Parks, challenge like Rosa. Reform like Frederick Douglass, stand like Nelson Mandela, inspire like Louis Armstrong, lead like Harriet Tubman, run like Jesse, fight like Muhammad Ali, speak like Malcolm X, shoot for the stars like Mae Jemison, educate like W.E.B. Du Bois, learn like Ruby Bridges, play like Jackie Robinson, dream like Martin Luther King, write like Maya Angelou, protest like Angela Davis, and invent like George Washington Carver. All of the individuals I just mentioned right now, I want you to think about if they saw these numbers today, do you think they would be saying lift every voice and everything is going to be okay? Huh? You know Muhammad Ali would have talked. And you know Jesse Owens would have ran out this district faster than I don't know anybody, right? You know Harriet Tubman would have said, come on, Underground Railroad, we got to get out of here, okay? You know that this is the truth. Do you think Dr. King, the same Dr. King who stood up against the Vietnam War and was killed by the government, do you think he would see this and say, this is the dream that I imagined? You think Maya Angelou would say this is okay? You know what Angela Davis would have done. You know that you think that this school district could have produced the genius of a George Washington Carver who came out of segregated schools? Jackie Robinson at the end of his life was saying, we're done with the symbolism. I did that. Guess what? We need black ownership in the major leagues. And guess what? That was in the early 1970s, and almost 50 years later, there are still no black owners in the major leagues. Guess what? Stop co-opting our history. You know what Brother Malcolm X would have said. He said, you need justice by any means necessary. You know this. And you know what the great Frederick Douglass said. Power concedes nothing without demand. It never had, and it never will. We want to thank you so much tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me to this space. It really is a huge privilege for me, and I'm excited about the direction we're going. So thank you so much, Dr. Francis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Householder. Thank you so much. And so, on behalf of the licensed LLC, East County North Star, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. We pray that this was enlightening. If you were educated by the numbers that you saw tonight, what we want you to do is just go ahead and take this video after we finish. We want you to send it to 10 individuals. Again, 2 p.m. we will put on our East County North Star newspaper. We will put out there when this Black Parent Meeting will be held. We want you to get on, and this is open to any Black parent in East Contra Costa County. If you live outside the county or West County, you're more than welcome to get on. And what we want to do is help you address those issues of equity. We know what's going on. We know you're having problems with these hot spots. If you're having problems in the school, we want to assist you, but we want to give you the right answers to your problems. And what we're going to do is we're going to work with everybody. We're going to work with everybody. We're going to try to do what we can to bring about more equitable outcomes for African American students. That's why we exist. Until the next time, we thank you. We love you. May God bless you, and good night. Take care.